One day my mom had asked him to get a battery for her watch, so he went. He was supposed to go to Coral Square Mall, and he ended up just driving, and it was several hours later and she hadn't heard from him. We were all scared because we didn't know where he was and we had no way to reach him. We were afraid. We didn't know what had happened. We started calling the radio stations. The only one that would even put anything out, and they did it right away, was WIRK.
She gave us very specific pieces of information where we could go on the air and tell people, this is his name, this is what he was wearing, this is what his car he's driving. The car was kind of unusual in itself, and this was his last known location.
My dad had a very souped up car at the time. He had a car that had a huge red stripe down the side of it. So they put it on the air. Within like maybe 15 minutes, somebody had called and they had spotted my dad driving on Military Trail.
The next couple of calls we have were from people who saw a car like that close to that area, but not exactly in that area because he would have moved by then. And this continued for probably about an hour and a half.
And we got a call from the Alzheimer's Association from a lady there who was very helpful.
Well, my boss actually contacted the helpline to see if the gentleman was registered. She called the radio station, found the daughter's number, got in contact with the daughter, and then put out an APB or search for the gentleman.
Unbeknownst to us, between 9:30 and 10, a young woman who was a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital had spotted him and pulled over, got his attention, and then called the authorities and waited for them to get there.
He thought he had only been gone for like an hour. And I said, Dad, you left yesterday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's now almost noon. And I said, what were you doing, you know? And he said, well, I'm just trying to find where I was going.
The most crucial time is the first 36 hours to find the patient and connect them with their families.
Just them putting it out is what found him.
Safe return is something that we utilize to keep the patient and the caregiver together and safe in case one becomes wandering.
The girl from the Alzheimer Association started talking to me about the safe return bracelet.
Hey, let's face it, any one of us might be dealing with this situation at some point in time in our lives.
We welcome back Ellen Brown, the CEO of our partner at Alzheimer's Association, Southeast Florida, and now joining us, Dr. Marie Todd, who's a neurologist and also on the board, I believe, of Alzheimer's, or you work closely with them.
Work closely.
Work closely, pardon me. Dr. Todd, the real question, I got several emails and some of them kept repeating the same question. Is there any genetic or other link to Alzheimer's that is, that has been researched and quantified?
Yes, early onset, under the age of 60, is almost always hereditary. But people get nervous because if they have a loved one that has the disorder, then they're worried about getting Alzheimer's disease. The hereditary early onset only accounts for maybe 4 or 5%. It's very unusual. And there is genetic tests that can demonstrate that abnormal gene that would make it likely to have that disorder. But the vast majority of the people are the other 96%, which are going to be later onset, and that'll be after the age of 65. There is if you have a brother, a sister, or a mother, father, a first relative that has the disorder, you probably have a 6 or 7 times increased risk.
Wow.
But if you look at the ages of the disorder and the incidence of the disorder as it's panning out now, because we're paying more attention to it, it pretty much looks like most of us are at risk. So
I read something about that said actually even years ago, before you knew much, medical research knew much about Alzheimer's, it was maybe noted as unknown cause of death. Now looking back, they're saying it could have been Alzheimer's, it just wasn't researched as much. Is that true?
That's true, and the other process is you figure that when I came into practice in 1973, I thought I knew pretty much all there was to know about Alzheimer's disease. In the next few years after that, and the years since then, And each year that goes past, I realize what I don't know. It seems to have changed. When initially we thought it was a disorder of younger people under the age. We called it presenile dementia. And that's what Alzheimer described at the turn of the 1900s, the very first part of the 1900s. And it turns out that it isn't. It's much more a disease that occurs as we get older. And the vast majority of us, the risk increases as we age. So it's more of an aging disorder rather than a pre-senile or pre-aged disorder.
I never knew it was thought of that. Ellen, your association is always like trying to get the latest research information in. Is there any hope so far for treatments, drugs that are either slowing or at least making the Alzheimer's victims' lives a little easier?
Yes, there is hope. There are currently 10 compounds that are in phase 3 of clinical trials. Some of those could be disease-modifying treatments. Again, this is a long process. From the time a drug first goes through this process, it's 15 to 16 years before that drug could be approved by the Food and Drug Administration. But you know, there is a lot of promise. Some of these compounds are disease-modifying. There is a vaccine in trials. I think we are certainly at a point where there is a lot more optimism than there was, say, 5–10 years ago.
But at this time, there's not really a drug that will help somebody remember that instead of being, you know, the sister Roxanne Diaz is Lorenzo's wife.
Well, we have treatments for Alzheimer's disease and some of the other closely associated dementias. The treatment isn't very robust. It's a medication that tends to slow down the process of getting worse.
Okay.
So it's not going to cure the process. It's not going to stop it. But it does tend to slow down the process. These drugs are not, at present, felt to be modifying. They're felt to be symptomatic treatments. So they're going to slow down the process, but they're not going to protect, they're not going to make neurons, brain cells, keep them from dying. That's the brain modifying process. That's the drugs we're looking for. That's the drugs we're hoping for. And that's the treatment we're hoping that'll eventually come to fruition.
Well, since there's not that treatment, let's back up to prevention. You know, people in their 30s and 40s, are there things they can do to offset the chances that they will get Alzheimer's in their 70s and 80s?
Right. Let's assume that you're going to be destined to get the disorder when you were 85. And if there was some way of knowing that, which there isn't, but assume that. Then when you are 60 or in your 50s, what can you do to try and prevent it from being a problem at age 85? Can you postpone it? And I really do think you can. I think you can at least keep it from being advanced the other way, i.e. back to 70 or back to 65 instead of 85, by things that you would do naturally. Have a good diet, exercise well, take care of your heart, take care of your blood pressure, take care of your diabetes. All of those look like, and don't drink too much alcohol, all of those look like risk factors that can bring that age of onset that is destined for you as an individual back to a younger age.
Okay.
So what we really don't know is, can we postpone it beyond 85? And that has to do with aging, and that gets to be more complicated.
Well, are the research funds there? In other words, we hear so much about a lot of the big diseases and research funds. Ellen, is that kind of what your association is busy doing, trying to bring in money, like with the Memory Walk, to fuel research, or where do those funds go?
The funds go to a combination of things. Definitely research toward a cure is a big part of what the association does. We are the largest private funder of research for Alzheimer's disease after the federal government. We do a lot of advocating to get more money to the federal government system, to NIH, for more research dollars. There's a huge need for this. In the past few years, those research dollars have decreased instead of increased, and they really need to go up. Our goal is to have $1 billion for research at NIH. But yes, that is a large part of what we do. And then the other part is care and support, things like a 24-hour helpline, support groups, other things to help people who are currently dealing with the disease.
Well, I know we're going to have more information in the future, but the basic thing is the more information you can get from your association, from other entities, I think knowledge is power, as they always say, it seems the better. Is that the feeling,
Absolutely.
Especially on medical side?
Oh, no question about it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. We'll see you both in a few moments.
Thank you.